Strategic exhaustion, when decision pressure drains the system. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that appears during difficult decisions. It does not come from physical effort, it comes from sustained uncertainty. When people must continuously evaluate risk, consequence, and direction, the decision system begins to fatigue. Clarity becomes harder to maintain, and the path forward begins to feel heavier than it actually is. Every significant decision requires mental processing. Options must be evaluated, risks must be weighed, consequences must be imagined, and alternative scenarios must be considered. When this process repeats for days or weeks, the cognitive system begins to slow. Clarity fades, attention narrows, and the mind begins to recycle the same thoughts without producing new insight. At a certain point, the brain is no longer analyzing the situation. It is simply circulating the pressure created by the situation. Under these conditions, urgency often increases. The mind begins to believe that immediate resolution is necessary. But urgency does not always reflect reality. Often, it reflects the discomfort of carrying uncertainty for too long. The brain begins searching for any decision that will relieve the pressure. Not necessarily the correct one, just one that ends the tension. When exhaustion sets in, even a poor decision can feel attractive simply because it promises relief. Emotionally, prolonged uncertainty creates strain. Doubt accumulates. Pressure builds, confidence erodes, and the individual begins to question their own judgment. This emotional fatigue is one reason intelligent people sometimes abandon sound reasoning under pressure. The emotional system simply wants the tension to stop. Not because the situation is hopeless, but because the system has been holding the question for too long without resolution. The body carries this pressure as well. Muscles tighten, breathing shortens, sleep becomes irregular. The nervous system remains on alert for extended periods. This state is useful during short bursts of danger, but when maintained for too long, it produces exhaustion, not because the situation is impossible, but because the system has not been allowed to reset. When people feel this level of fatigue, they often assume the problem is lack of energy, but often the problem is unresolved pressure. The mind is still trying to resolve signals that have not yet organized into clarity. Pushing harder rarely solves this condition. In many cases, it deepens the distortion. The system becomes trapped in a loop of effort without perspective. Clarity often returns when the system resets, when the nervous system settles, when breathing slows, when attention widens again. In those moments, the mind can finally see patterns that were invisible under pressure. This is why many important decisions appear obvious after stepping away from them. Distance restores perspective. The mind needs enough space to see the terrain once again. If you feel mentally exhausted by a decision, pause. Notice your breathing. Notice the tension in your body. Allow the nervous system to settle for a moment. Sometimes exhaustion is not a lack of strength. Sometimes it is the body signaling that pressure has been carried for far too long. When the system resets, perception often clears. Strategic exhaustion is not weakness. It is a signal that the human system has been operating under sustained pressure. Recognizing that signal allows the decision process to recover, and clarity often returns sooner than expected. Take what you need, and when you are ready, step back into the world.